we possess an incredibly arrogant view of history. We like to tell ourselves that we are the absolute authors of the natural world. We look back at the dawn of human civilization and imagine our ancestors as these fierce, dominant figures who took the apex predators of the Ice Age, lethal, calculating, pack-hunting wolves, and through sheer force of human will, bent them to our command. We genuinely believe we chose them. But if you strip away the romantic myths and actually study the cold, hard data of evolutionary biology, a completely different narrative begins to take shape, one that is far more unsettling. The reality is that human beings did not domesticate the wolf. What actually happened was a masterclass in biological infiltration. A small, hyper-intelligent, genetically unique faction of ancient wolves looked at human settlements, correctly identified our species' deepest, most hardwired psychological vulnerabilities, and engineered an evolutionary backdoor directly into our camps. This isn't really a warm, emotional story about humans discovering their best friend. Think of it more like a massive evolutionary takeover, almost like a 30,000-year-long psychological hack. A predator slowly reduced its sharp edges, not by becoming weaker, but by gaining something far more powerful, a biological glitch that directly interfered with the human brain. And in doing so, it secured its survival by reshaping us more than we ever reshaped it. Back in the summer of 2019, a group of international researchers, comparative psychologists, evolutionary biologists, and anatomists published a study that completely overturned what we thought we knew about dogs. Their goal was simple at first: carefully map out the tiny facial muscles that distinguish domestic dogs from their wild ancestors, gray wolves. They expected small differences, maybe slight changes in jaw strength or ear movement. But what they found was something far more surprising. Structurally, the facial anatomy of wolves and dogs is almost identical. Muscle for muscle, they are nearly the same, except for one very small, almost overlooked detail. A tiny muscle called the levator anguli oculi medialis. Its function is very specific. It lifts the inner corner of the eyebrow upward and slightly inward. In domestic dogs, this muscle is active, well-developed, and constantly usable. But in gray wolves, it's essentially non-functional, a leftover evolutionary fragment, just loose fibers under the skin. Wolves simply cannot make that soft, sad-eyed expression. Their faces remain rigid, stoic, and purely predatory, no vulnerability, no emotional softness. Now here's the real question: why would evolution invest energy into building such a specific facial muscle in an animal that doesn't need it for hunting, survival, or feeding? The answer is surprisingly simple, and a little unsettling. It didn't evolve for the dog. It evolved for us. When a dog activates that tiny muscle and raises its inner eyebrow, it triggers something deep in the human brain known as the infant schema. To our subconscious, that movement makes the dog's eyes look larger, rounder, and emotionally fragile, almost identical to a human infant in distress. Our ancestors didn't consciously analyze this and think, this would make a good hunting partner. That's a modern rationalization. In reality, the emotional part of the human brain reacted instantly and automatically. It misread the signal. It didn't see a predator. It saw something helpless, something that needed protection. That simple visual trick effectively hacked the human caregiving instinct. Early wolves carrying this trait weren't driven away. They were fed, protected, and allowed to stay close, because they triggered the wrong emotional response in us. And over time, that emotional bias helped them survive and evolve into dogs. But this was only the first layer of the system. To fully secure their place beside humans, dogs didn't stop at appearance alone. They went deeper, far deeper into the body's chemistry. More specifically, they found a way into one of the most powerful bonding systems in all mammalian biology, the oxytocin feedback loop. Oxytocin is often described as the brain's bonding chemical. It's what builds trust, attachment, and emotional closeness. In humans, it surges during some of the most intense moments of life, like when a mother first holds her newborn baby and looks into its eyes. In that instant, chemistry takes over. The brain creates an almost unbreakable bond, designed to ensure protection, care, and survival. Normally, this system is tightly reserved for biological continuation. Your own children, your own genetic line. But then came a surprising discovery from behavioral scientists in Japan. When a human and a domestic dog maintain gentle, sustained eye contact, both experience a measurable rise in oxytocin levels. And even more surprisingly, it's not one-sided. As the human's oxytocin increases, the dog's responds in kind, producing a matching chemical surge. What forms here is something rare in nature, a closed-loop biological feedback cycle between two completely different species. There is no other known case where unrelated animals share such a synchronized hormonal exchange. In that moment, your brain stops interpreting what's in front of you as just an animal. Instead, it reacts as if it is forming a bond with its own child. If you really sit with what that means, it becomes unsettling in a quiet way. Dogs didn't just adapt to live near humans. They found a way to plug themselves directly into the biological system humans rely on to protect their own offspring. They didn't need permission or understanding. They simply bypassed conscious thought and reached the emotional core through chemistry. From a purely evolutionary perspective, it's almost hard to call it anything other than a remarkably successful biological strategy. Now compare the two paths. On one side, the gray wolves that stayed true to their original design. Strong, intelligent, highly adaptive predators. They kept their independence, their instincts, and their fear of humans. But that choice came at a cost. Today, their population has fallen to around 300,000 worldwide, scattered across shrinking wild spaces, constantly pressured by habitat loss, hunting, and conflict with human expansion. Survival, for them, remains a constant struggle. On the other side is the domestic dog. By reducing their wild instincts, softening their behavior, and evolving that subtle emotional signal that works on human perception, they made a completely different trade. And it worked, spectacularly. Today, there are over 900 million domestic dogs on the planet. They effectively outsource survival itself. No more hunting through freezing storms with broken limbs. No more constant fight for food. Humans now provide meals, shelter, and even medical care. From specialized diets to expensive surgeries, we often extend their lives far beyond what nature alone would allow, even when it costs us more than we planned or can easily afford. In evolutionary terms, it's a strange kind of victory. Survival not through resistance to humans, but through integration into them. They traded their terrifying status as apex predators to become the absolute, undisputed rulers of our living rooms. They made themselves entirely untouchable by offering humanity a flawless psychological mirror, a creature that provides unconditional, non-judgmental validation in a lonely world in exchange for guaranteed food, shelter, and medical care until the day they die. So let us ask the question one final time, free from our human ego. Who really tamed whom? Did our primitive ancestors truly conquer the terrifying gray wolf? Or did a hyper-adaptable, opportunistic branch of the canine lineage realize that the easiest way to conquer the planet wasn't through bloody teeth, sharp claws, and endless warfare, but through a quiet, calculated appeal to the flaws in human psychology? The next time your dog sits at your feet, tilts its head, fires that tiny facial muscle, and looks up at you with those wide, heartbreaking innocent eyes, take a long, hard look. You aren't just looking at a sweet, loyal pet. You are looking at 30,000 years of absolute evolutionary genius working perfectly in real time. They never had to break through our defenses. They simply made us believe that opening the door was our idea all along.